All right. Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? Sounds good? Great. The image is good? Give me a thumbs up. All right, great. Awesome. Looking great, Mauricio. Where are you at? Down by the beach? Didn't know you could travel like that. All right. So, we got 31 people on the line right now. I guess we're waiting for about 10, but we're going to move forward, guys. Josh is getting the food out of the way right in the beginning so I don't complain later. That's perfect. All right. So let's see if everybody has cameras on. What do we got? All right. Natalia has the camera off. Ria has the camera off. Okay, cool. So, Jessiel is learning with Leo outside. Okay, great. All right, guys, here we go. So, we're going to talk about fair housing. We're going to talk about what is real estate. And if we have time, we're going to talk about estates and interest. So, we'll see how that goes, okay? So, we try to catch up for what we missed the first day. All right, so before I start, I want to see if you guys have any questions. If you have any questions regarding the previous chapters, because again, chapter 1, 2, and 3 are very, very important when we talk about the licensing commission rules and regulations, agency, brokerage activities, ethical considerations. These are very important chapters, as I said. It's actually the core of all the exams. So it doesn't matter which state you're in, the majority of the national test is going to be under these rules and regulations that you as an agent must abide by. A lot of the stuff you need to know because it's general real estate, but like I said in the first days, attorneys will handle it, title company will handle it, appraiser will handle it. We're going to learn all this stuff, but what you really, really need to know is representing somebody else, what are your duties and responsibilities. So guys, if you have any questions, take advantage now to tell me, hey Bruno, wait a second, got a question, and I'll hold on and address that question, okay? I know that some people will have no questions since they're out in the paradise right now, in the island somewhere. Right, Mr. Velasquez? Is in an island, that's what it is? Okay, cool. So you guys know he's using the background that Zoom provides. You don't have to use that. It just uses your resources and freezes my screen. He's the one that's at fault for this. We had this with Jessiel the other day. She's the one that froze my screen. Just saying. All right, Michelle, you did have one question. Go ahead. What is your question? Put it out there for me. And we got a couple new people today as well. So, guys, while she's writing the question, guys, whatever you missed, don't worry, because once we finish the course, we start a brand new course right after, so it's like a week apart. And once we get there, then the first week you'll complete those 2 chapters. I'm sorry, the 2 days that you missed. So don't worry about that so much. Okay. Michelle is still writing. Where's Michelle? Okay. I see you already removed the background, so you don't take the blame. I know. All right, Michelle, you took too long, so Shakia come up with a question before you, so I'm going to address her first. Okay? And it says here, I have a quick question also. How many questions is on the New Jersey State portion of the exam? So there's 80 general real estate questions, and 10% of those are math. So you have up to 8 questions on math, right? And then there's 30 questions that are specific to New Jersey. So the majority of the questions are state. You need 77 questions to correct answers to pass. If you nail the 80 questions that are general real estate, you pass. So you can forget Jersey, okay? Which obviously I'm just joking, to not forget Jersey, because that's the license you're getting. Now addressing Michelle's question, when a salesperson, Blas just quit. Math? Nah. All right. When a salesperson license is suspended and guilty, is it revoked? So depending on what the crime is, your license could be revoked. Meaning, if it's a minor issue, they will suspend you until it's resolved. And then depending on the determination of what is that you had to resolve and what fines you had to pay, once you pay, you might be reinstated. So I know some people that their issue was, like brokers for instance, that their issue was commingling or mixing funds. They lost their broker's license, but they were able to get back as a salesperson and then eventually broker salesperson. Some of them, they just lost the broker of record position and had to be a broker salesperson for somebody else. So it all depends on the real estate commission. Could you get revoked permanently? Yeah, it all depends on how serious the damage was. Let's put it like that. Okay? All right, David says the math is the fun part. Well, David, you already know how I run the math chapter, so I make it a lot easier than what we're going to learn throughout these weeks. Yep. Nanette goes, I have a comment. What you did on Quizlet is phenomenal. Thank you. I appreciate it. I hope you guys are taking advantage of Quizlet. Some of you are not able to get into it. I'm going to let you know right now. It's funny how it works. There's a lot of people that join the Quizlet link and they're never asked anything. They go right into my Quizlet, which is private just for my students. And some of you, I have to go into the Quizlet dashboard and add you as members. So I have to accept you as members. I don't know why. So if you're having problems getting into Quizlet, right, just let me know. I think, Michelle, I just helped you, right? You were able to get in, great. So just let me know, and I'll most likely, that's all I need to do. All I need to do is just add you or accept you into the Quizlet, okay? Erica, is it the same as the slides? No. The Quizlet is pretty much flashcards. So instead of you writing flashcards, it's there for you already. Like everything you can think of, I think there's over 1,000 questions, flashcards there. We have key terms. Tahir goes like, yeah, got it, perfect. So there's like 1,000 terms. There's the glossary that we have at the end of the book is pretty much there as key terms to know. There's acronyms there. There's a bunch of math examples, questions. There's Nanette just wrote the match game. Yeah, there's so many things there, resources for you guys. Again, I'm trying to add as much as I can to make it as easy as I can as possible for you. So Erica, no, not the same as the PowerPoint slides. The PowerPoints are also in each chapter, but not the same. The Quizlet is totally separate. So what I did was, between questions that I had and questions that other teachers had nationwide, I tried to integrate it all into one Quizlet for the salesperson, okay, course. So when you get there, I actually have it per chapter, so you can test yourself as you go. All right, and that's included for free. I pay for it, but it's included for free for you guys, okay? So I pay a monthly fee. It's minimal as a teacher, but it's free for you guys. Almost all almost everything that I have has some type of tiny fee to it, but as long as it benefits you guys and you guys get to pass, that's all I care about. And listen, you're welcome to use it for as long as you need. Just remember that it's private to us, just like the Facebook group is private to us. So don't go and just give out these links to other people, please. Not that I have a problem with other people joining. It's just I like to have a more direct control so I can say, hey, like Nanette, this is going on, because I can see an analysis of what you're doing on Quizlet. It tells me what you're missing the most, or in general, what are people missing the most. And even my testing, guys, so we're going to jump right into the class in a second. But even my testing, so when you get towards the end, when you do like at least 90% of the course, I recommend that you go online to where it says test yourself in my student resources. Even that test right there gives me an idea of where you're failing and where I should focus on training you, right? So I've been adjusting. Some of you were my students in the past, and again, life happens. So I don't blame you for disappearing there and coming back. It's just how it is. It has happened to me as well. There's a course I've been trying to finish for the longest time. But if you guys know how I've taught before and the way I'm teaching now, you'll realize that I emphasize certain things more than others. You'll realize as the days go by that I skip a few things. Not that I skim a few things. I don't skip. I skim a few things and then I spend a lot of time in others. Because that's where I see you guys failing the most. And that's where I see where it's most heavily tested in the state exam. All right? So again, constantly adjusting, constantly trying to make it better for you guys, and I hope it helps. All right? So you guys give me a feedback towards the class as it goes, or at the end. Just let me know suggestions. I always appreciate those, and try to improve it, okay? All right, so with that being said, I think we're ready. We got 37 people now, so I gave enough time for those that could not log in, and we're gonna move forward. So fair housing, and we're gonna start with a question because I always start with a question. I love starting chapters with a question so we understand where we're about to talk about, right? So fair housing. Have you ever seen fair housing or equal housing opportunity or equal employment opportunity or equal credit opportunity, right? You've seen those? If you have, then what do you think fair housing means? Write down in the chat right now, what do you think fair housing means? Okay, I just saw Rita's message saying, never mind, I found it. Okay, you found Quizlet, okay. All right, so Leslie said, no discriminating. No discrimination, says David. Natalia, no discrimination. Treating everybody equally. All right, great. Equal opportunity, fair opportunity. So guys, whether you agree or not with everything that's happening, right? I want you to learn one thing. Whether you agree or not, I gave you the heads up yesterday. Right? If you intend to discriminate or you have some type of discriminatory bone in you, right? Because some people have a little tiny bone, it could be the rib or whatever, that is has a discriminatory part to it. I'm letting you know right now, as soon as you get your license, right, while operating as a licensee, put that out the door. Don't use it at all. That discriminatory bone, do not use it at all. Because I'm going to show you today that everybody's entitled to buy, sell, or rent. And if you as a potential licensee ignore these rules or regulations, right, look what could happen. Not only do you get your license revoked, but it's also a criminal act. Criminal act. And I'm pretty sure in some way or another, and I'm not going to get into what's happening right now, but or politics or anything like that, but in one way or another, I'm pretty sure, I saw that, Michelle, I'm pretty sure that a lot of these laws are going to be restructured over the next couple of years. All right? So what you're going to learn today, I think is going to be enforced even more. Let's put it like that. All right? So pay close attention to this chapter. Yesterday's chapter and the day before are the core of the exam, but this one is the one that hurts you the most if you don't pay attention to it. You guys got it? So this is for real life, what hurts you the most in real life. So again, failure to comply with fair housing practices is not only grounds for license revocation, but also a criminal act, okay? So Maria, welcome to lawsuits. This is your first day, so welcome to lawsuits. That's how we start. All right, guys, so we're going to start with the federal fair housing laws. So the first half of this chapter, we deal with federal only, okay? In the second half, we deal with states. So there, you guys are probably going to ask me questions that are related to states, and I'll tell you, hey, wait a minute, we're going to deal with that later, okay? So right now, I want you to pay attention to one thing. That I have this in green. The only thing I have in green is the year. Why do I have the year in green? Because I don't need you really to know the Civil Rights Act, but I need you to know 1866. Only to be able to associate immediately to what it stands for. See, in 1866, that was the first time we had a law to protect the people based on their race and color. 1866. Look how many years it took for this law to be created. 1,866 of the new years, right? Not talking about before the year zero. So it's even more than. But it says that all citizens in the United States shall have the same right in every state and territory as is enjoyed by white citizens thereof to inherit, purchase, lease, sell, hold, and convey real and personal property. All right? So they're saying is stop ignoring everybody else. That's what they're saying. Okay? Now, because of the reference to white citizens, this law has been widely interpreted as to prohibit discrimination based on race and color. So every time you see 1866, the first thing that needs to pop up to your mind is race and color. I'm going to repeat this a bunch of times. Okay? Now, in 1987, in a court case involving an old Civil Rights Act, the Supreme Court broadened the definition of race, implying that it might also apply to ethnic or even religious groups. Don't worry so much about this because it's coming up in 1968. What you need to know, guys, and pay attention, and I think, Maria just wrote, this is so relevant. Yeah, pay attention because what's happening now, it's been happening for a lot of years, for those that don't know or don't remember or don't care. It's been happening for a lot of years, so I'm addressing all, right? And since 1866, race and color, every rule has an exception. I mentioned that several times. Every rule has an exception, except for 1866 law, the Civil Rights Act of 1866, that prohibits discrimination based on race and color. Okay? If only they put this on the news, right? Next, look right here. Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968. So 1866, race and color. 1968, they added amendments to the 1866 law. And in those amendments, they added religion and national origin. 1968. So for 102 years, the only thing we had protection was on race and color, supposedly. And 102 years later, we have religion and national origin. So what do you have to remember? 1866, race and color. 1968, religion, national origin. This has to be immediate. In the state exam or even in real life, you have to remember that these groups are protected. Now, what happened also in 1968 is that they created some exemptions. Before I get to the exemptions, I want to show you, this is common sense, so I just skim right through it. I just want to show you that this law prohibits the following discriminatory acts. You should not refuse to rent, to sell, to rent, or negotiate with any person as a means of discrimination, or change the terms or conditions. Oh, you know what? You're orange, you're green, so let's change the terms for orange people and for green people. No, it's equal for everybody. If it's $1,500 a month, it's $1,500 a month for both. If it's 5% interest, it's 5% interest for both. You got it? So I think this is common sense with these bullet points, so just mark them. On the right-hand side, we have exemptions. Right? We're on page 51. On the right-hand side, we have exemptions. And there's no exemption to the 1866 law, but in 1968, they added exemptions to the Federal Fair Housing Act. See, they exempted, and I'm going to slow down on this one because it's very, very confusing to most people. It was confusing to me when I heard it the first time. Sometimes it's still confusing to me, right? Check this out. It says the sale or rental of a single family home, is exempted when the home is owned by an individual who does not own more than three such homes at one time. So you're selling your one family or renting a one family, and you do not own more than 3 single families. Okay? If you get a fourth single family, then you cannot discriminate anymore. So guys, pay attention. If you intend to discriminate, there are loopholes in the law, as I guess you guys have figured out lately, right? There are loopholes in the law that says it's okay if you do it this way, right? This is a federal law that says as long as you do not own more than 3 of these homes, it's okay to discriminate. But there's more. It's also okay to discriminate as long as you're not using a broker or a salesperson or an agent. And as long as your advertising is not discriminatory. So if you advertise house for sale and then somebody shows up at your doorstep and says, hey, I want to buy your house, right? So this is a for sale by owner. And you look at that person and they're not the color or the religion or whatever nation they came from or whatever gender. They're not the type that you would expect. As long as your advertisement was not discriminatory, once they're there, you can tell them, yeah, I'm going to keep looking. It's okay to discriminate at that point. If you use a realtor, remember, we don't have an oath, which I'm going to address that later. We don't have an oath to uphold. But if we do, that's how we started this chapter. If we do help somebody discriminate, you could be liable for that lawsuit as well. All right? So that's why if they use a broker, salesperson, or agent, then they're not exempt. So these are strictly for sale or for rent by owners. Now it gets better. It says if the owner is not living in the dwelling at the time, so it's not the house that I live in and I'm trying to rent to somebody else, right? Or I was not the most recent occupant. Ready? Here's the punchline. Only one sale by an individual is exempt from the law within a 24-month period. Meaning, you can only discriminate once every 2 years. Okay? After the 2 years, guess what you can do again? You can discriminate again. All right? So, guys, you just have to be patient. 2 years go by real quick. If you want to discriminate, that's all you have to do. Okay? Discriminate once, and then be patient enough. Does this make any sense to any of you? Not at all, right? This is federal law. This is for you to see how the laws are created in the world. This is not just a United States thing, okay? This is in the world. Laws are created with loopholes. You want to do something, there's always a loophole, okay? You want to reduce your taxes without being named tax evasion, there's a legal way to do it. You just got to find the loopholes. You guys understand? So, you want to buy real estate without having a license? There are loopholes. I mean, help somebody buy real estate without having a license? There are loopholes. That's why wholesaling exists. It's just knowing how to operate within the law, and then you won't be in trouble. Okay? So this is a really ridiculous law. And if you guys read the way it's actually written, it gets even worse. But you need to know this, unfortunately. You can discriminate if you have no more than 3 single families, right? And you're not using, very important, this might be the question or the answer, you're not using a broker or salesperson or any type of discriminatory advertising, okay? And again, only once every 2 years. Now, guys, I just said once every 2 years. So here's my question. How do we know the 2 years are up? Anybody? Write it down. How do we know the 2 years are up? How do we know that we can now discriminate again? Help me out. Let me know in the chat. Josh goes, from the closing of a sale, but this could be for a rental as well. And what about if they discriminate against somebody that did not rent? So they discriminated a month ago or 2 months ago, and now we rent or we close. So how? So that would not be the one. The contract lease, I guess I just answered that. Nanette says you won't know. Jeff says if the person reported you. Sandra says you don't know if nobody's keeping track of it. Okay. So Jeff has the correct answer. The thing is, somebody needs to put a complaint. If they don't put a complaint, then there's no time clock. If there's no reporting of discrimination, then there's no time clock. How are people going to know, wait a minute, you still got 3 days left. You can't discriminate against me. I'm renting from you. No, you can't. There has to be some type of complaint, guys. Right? And I'm not telling you guys to go out there and just report everything. But I am letting you know that if there's no complaint, if there's no reporting, if it's not blatant as it's been lately, let's say, in the past week and a half, 2 weeks, right? If it's not as blatant as we saw, right, then nobody will know. There has to be some type of record of the discrimination in order for that action to take place. You guys got it? Thumbs up? Great. All right, so Rito says, does this mean that if the owner is living in the dwelling, by the way, when I read your questions, I assume that this is the way you're putting it together, okay? So the way I make it sound. So does this mean that if the owner is living in the dwelling at the time, or is the most recent occupant, are they exempt for more than one such sale? Well, according to the way it's worded, and in the actual law it's worded very similar, yeah. If they are the owner, then they can discriminate whenever they want. Okay? Somebody has their mic on? Okay. I think that was... Let's hope this doesn't freeze again. Let's see. No, you guys are still here? Good. Alright, you're not supposed... Here it says that you're not allowed to unmute, so I don't know how he got unmuted. Alright, that was Carlos. He's in trouble now. That's what it is. So let me go back to this. So Rito, yes, if they live there, I'm going to show you in a little bit right here that if it's owner occupied, then you can discriminate at any time. So let me address that in a second, okay? Maria, wow, so, wow. So we got 2 wows here. So no one has to be caught, otherwise they can keep doing it. If caught once every 2 years from the reported incident. So one has to be caught, yeah. Otherwise you keep doing that. That's obvious. I mean, think about this. How do you make a whole lot of money right away? You go rob a bank, right? And if you're successful at robbing the bank, what can you do right after? You rob another one, right? And if you're successful, what are you going to do next? You're going to keep going until you get caught. Because that's the biggest mistake that criminals make is, well, I was successful once. We are good at this. Let's do it again, right? And one day they get caught. So pretty much until they get caught, they keep on doing whatever they want. Again, watch the news and you'll see. I mean, don't watch the news. Watch social media where people are actually posting the stuff that's happening. But you'll see that unless it's caught right on camera, unless there's an actual record of it in writing, okay, any type of proof that it has happened, yeah, people will just keep on doing whatever they want. Absolutely. Some of you, and I'm not saying, don't get offended, I'm not saying that you will do this, but you might be trained this way, so maybe you'll do it, subconsciously. It's like you're not doing it on purpose. It's just the way you're trained and you believe to be that the proper way. Some of you will make mistakes as a realtor. It becomes a normal practice, right, for you. It becomes a habit, and you don't even realize that it's actually discrimination or it's actually fraud. I talked about that yesterday when we talked about the CIS, the Consumer Information Statement. Some brokers tell you to backdate the document only because they don't know how to explain, or like, don't waste your time explaining this to the client. But by law, it's the first thing you have to present is the CIS, right? So brokers already tell you as they train you, don't worry about it. That nobody ever checks that. So let's move forward. That's wrong, right? You're going to be trained on. You're going to be trained on how to address listings. And if the seller says, well, I don't want to deal with, let's say, I'm not picking on anybody, I'm just going to say it, but I don't want to deal with Indian people, or I don't want to deal with Puerto Ricans, or I don't want to deal with Portuguese, or I don't want to deal with Brazilians. And if they do this and you're like, well, you're thinking in your mind, your little voice goes, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I really need the money. So, okay, no problem. I'll show the property to anybody that's not out of those origins, right? A lot of times it happens like that. Other times, you're trained like that. Because remember, once you're done with this course and you pass the state exam, it's all going to be a blank. Like, you'll even forget that you're on a Zoom class with me. That's what it is. You'll remember vaguely, yeah, I think it was, I had a teacher once, Bruno. He's the one that taught me about real estate. Yeah. The point is, as soon as you start getting active, the law and everything we're learning here is out the door. Now it's whatever they're telling you to do, and if you don't know better, that's what your life will be. Does that make sense? That's how we grow. That's how community makes us. We just follow blindly certain people and certain steps, and we get caught into these types of thoughts and patterns and actions that we take. So, yeah, unless you're reported, you can technically keep doing. Yep. All right, what else we got? Carlos says they're evil. Yes, again, this is federal law. They're evil. All right, next thing we got is the rental of rooms or units is exempted in an owner-occupied. So if they live there, as we just talked about before, if they live there, they are totally exempt. Okay? As long as it's a 1 to 4 family dwelling. So more than 4, you're not exempt. If you don't live there, you're not exempt. It goes back to what we have here, right? So remember, because in the this is federal, under state, we also have an exemption for owner-occupied. You need to know the difference between these two, because you might have a question that says, under state law, when can you discriminate? Or when is it okay to discriminate? They'll give you 4 answers. 2 you can put completely out the way. And then 2 are very similar. They both will say owner-occupied. The difference is, under federal law, it's 1 to 4 family. Under state law, it's a duplex or a 2 family, but we'll get there. I just want to make sure you understand the difference between these two, and it might be a question. These next 2, I will address them in the same, with the same example and in the same way. And please, I got 41 people on the line. Make sure you don't get offended with what I'm about to say. I'm not doing it to hurt you. I'm just doing it to give an example. So this is my warning, my caveat. Please understand my comparison, okay? So it says dwelling units. Dwelling units, so a property that's owned by religious organization may be restricted to the people if it's not restricted based on race, color, national origin, disability, or familial status. Okay? And then it says, and yes, I'm putting them in the same category. And then it says, a private club that is not open to the public may restrict the rental or occupancy of lodgings that it owns to its members, as long as the lodgings are not operated commercially. So, again, don't get offended. I did put private club and religion into one, but now it's going to get even worse in my example. Because, guys, very simple. I have 2 groups right here. Okay? This group goes to 24-hour fitness. This group goes to retro fitness. Can 24-hour fitness members go to retro fitness to work out? Give me the answer. You guys say no. Somebody said yes. David says yes. David, why? So as you guys are answering David, give me why. Okay. I think everybody else is already answering. if they have membership to both. So guys, again, I asked you not to get offended because here you go. Units owned by religious organizations are meant for the people that are part, see, membership. They are part of that organization, so members of the organization, okay? A private club operates the same way. They can limit whatever they have, lodgings or rentals, to its members. So the key word, just like the gym, the key word is membership. As long as they're not discriminating by any of these other reasons, right? They're only discriminating because, hey, this is our church and we bought this building for the members of our church to live in. You got it? As long as they do it that way. They're not saying, hey, we bought this building so we advertise on Craigslist to anybody, right? Just like the private club, the same thing, right? As long as they don't put it out to the public, then they're not discriminating. They bought it with the intention of being to its members. Just like a gym membership is for members only. You guys understand? Is this good? Give me a thumbs up. Good. All right, so again, you have to remember when you see the question, it's not about religion. It's about membership in that organization. Okay? Again, it's not about religion. It's about membership. You got it? Remember I said I open up a student portal for you guys and I ask you please not to share these links that I have there, these resources that I worked hard for you guys? That's the reason. It's because it's members only. Okay? And it's protected. Even when you log in there, if you did not purchase something through the site or if I did not enable you to have access to them, right? You won't. It just shows a bunch of stuff, but you can't access anything. That's the idea behind it. Membership. Remember this. Membership. It's not discrimination if it's membership. That's the exemption here. Now, in 1974, now, 1866, I said race and color. 1968, I said religious and natural origin, right? National origin. So those two you need to remember by the year. 1974, you don't have to remember because one, they're not going to ask you the year, and two, because there's another 1974 in the book. Okay? 1866, there's no other, so it's easy to remember, race and color. 1968, there's no other, so it's easy to remember. Religion and national origin was added to the original laws. Okay? So 1974, they added sex. I want you guys to write this here. Gender. I know you guys know we don't discriminate against sex. It's gender. Male, female, or other. Okay? Ready? So they added gender as a protected class. Every time you see sex in this scenario is gender. And then in 1988, two new classes were added. See, those with mental or physical disabilities, including AIDS, and familial status. Now, familial status is a family that has members that are under the age of 18. Meaning, I cannot reject you, and you probably have seen these ads that say no children allowed, right? I cannot reject you unless it's owner-occupied, 1 to 4 family, okay? I cannot reject you as a tenant if you have children. How many times, guys, you can raise your hand and show me, how many times, just raise your hand, how many times have you seen ads or heard of people being rejected based on having children? Don't come. Look at that. Look at those, right? You cannot rent here because you have children. My ad clearly says no children. Now, you guys are going to learn in a little bit that when we get to the state part, that you can't, again, reject. But you're also going to learn that there's a lot of laws here that homeowners do not know. They think that that's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, did you guys know all these so far? Did everybody know all these, especially these exemptions, as long as it's a single family, right? You didn't know, right? Very important. Here, although, this sentence right here, although alcoholics and persons in treatment are considered a protected class, so alcoholics and persons in treatment are considered protected class, right? Drug abusers are not, nor are those who pose a threat to the health or safety of others. So when we do a background check, guys, and we see that there's criminal record, right, we can reject that person. It's okay to discriminate because they're not protected. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm promoting you guys to reject people based on the background, because you don't know why they have their record. In fact, you shouldn't even be able to ask why they have the record. But some people go to jail for no reason, right? They're just wrong place, wrong time, as we all know, and learning even more over the past couple of weeks, right? So we already knew from before, but it's becoming more and more apparent lately. I was honest with you guys, and I'll be honest again. And Courtney, I know I'm not going to say the whole story again, but just know that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And I did get arrested for no reason. And unfortunately, knowing the law more than the police officer knows is a crime in Vegas, just letting you know. So, and I think everywhere, you don't try to tell a cop what the laws are. And that was my mistake. Instead of defending myself later, right, I decided to tell the cop the law of his state and his county and his city. And I had just come from a class about laws, about how to defend yourself in civil and criminal laws, right? So, quick mistake, and I mean a big mistake, something simple that I could have addressed later, and that happened. Now, my point here is, a lot of times, wrong place, wrong time, and stupidity in your mind, you open your mouth and boom, you're gonna go because now the cop is imposing his badge versus what you're really trying to do. Now, again, not all people that got arrested or have a record are good people. Not all of them are bad people. Not all cops are good. Not all cops are bad. So we need to understand this. And sometimes the heat of the moment could also cause certain things to happen. So what I'm trying to say here very simply is when we do background checks, a lot of people reject you right away with fear that you are a threat to the health or safety of others, right? So I might reject you as a tenant, as an example, because of that. I don't know what it was, but I see criminal, done. You're out. Okay? If you're an alcoholic or somebody in treatment, I cannot reject you. Drug abusers or threats or potential threats, I can reject you. Now I think I'm taking this chapter a little slower than usual, only because of everything that's been happening lately. So pay close attention. It's not me trying to promote anything. It's just making sure you guys are clear on the laws so you don't get caught out there doing something wrong. Okay? So next we have, I'm going to separate this. You guys see, before I read the rest, do you see that this is not highlighted? Do you see it right here? It's not highlighted? Okay. There's a reason. Because housing intended for older persons has two different categories or classes. Okay? They are exempt from familial status. And what was familial status? Family members under 18, right? Familial status is a protected class. So I cannot say I'm not renting to people that have children. I have to rent to them, except if it's intended for older persons. So if this community, and look, it's divided into two sections. If this community is solely occupied by persons 62 and older, then the youngest person in this group, the youngest person in this community, must be at least 62. Okay, at least 62. So let's say I reach the age of 62 and my wife reaches the age of 57, let's say. Can we move into a 62 or older? The answer is no. I have to wait until she reaches the age of 62. You got it so far? Okay. The second group, right here, is if 80% of the units are occupied by at least one person 55 or older. So these are the two groups. They are strictly or solely 62, or at least 80% of the community must be 55 or older. So in this scenario, if I reach the age of 55 and my wife reaches the age of 49 or 48 or whatever, can we move into this 55 plus community? The answer is yes, because only one of us, at least one person, must be 55 or older. You guys got it? What if we have children that are under 18? Can we move into this community? See, now I told you that it's exempt from the familial status. That means they can impose rules and regulations that prohibit us from bringing children. So it says right here for both of these that the housing facility or community, they must publish and adhere to policies and procedures that demonstrate that it's intended. This is the key, that it's intended to be housing for older persons. So usually when we get into these type of communities, as soon as we walk in to, like, say, the leasing office, there's a clear statement, so like a board or something, a clear statement that says this is a senior community or 55 plus community or whatever community, and it's intended for that purpose only. Children are not allowed, and if children are allowed, it's only at intervals of 1 week, intervals of 2 weeks, intervals of 6 months, whatever it is that they determine. As long as they comply with occupancy rules issued by Secretary of U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD, right? As long as they comply with that, they are okay to discriminate against children under 18. You guys got it? Thumbs up? All right, so two type of groups, remember that because there might be a question. Two types of groups, 62 and older or 55 plus, at least one person 55 plus, okay? And for you guys, it says right here, if you're advertising these type of communities, you must make sure that they have something in writing that say that they comply with these requirements. Now, Jones versus Mayer. One of our agents just make a really strong coffee. So, I'm wired. All right. Instead of having chocolate bars, I should have like a coffee bar because that's almost what it is. That's how thick and how strong this coffee is. All right, so Jones versus Mayer. Has anybody ever heard of Jones versus Mayer before? Besides those that have done this chapter before, right? Okay. If you've heard about Jones versus Mayer, then you know that Jones. All right. Courtney says froze. I froze or you froze? Everybody still seeing me? We're still moving? All right, we're still moving parts. Good. Tamori says, I see you clear. Thank you. Unfortunately, my skin tone does not get any better than this. So yes, clear. I usually say that when I go to the doctor, we don't need x-rays. He can see right through me. That's how clear it is. All right, we're good. Courtney says, now clear. Shaking your head. Let me see you shake your head, Courtney. All right, good. So, Jones versus Mayer. What happened was that Jones was an African American that was trying to buy a house in St. Louis County, Missouri. But Alfred H. Mayer Company refused to sell it to him. Why? Because of race. Okay? So this is the second most significant act or development in 1968. The first one was the amendment or the addition to the Civil Rights Act of 1866, and the second was this one. Because it says right here, next page, at the bottom, it says right here that the importance of this decision rests in the fact that 1968 law exempts people, right? We just went over exemptions. The 1968 law exempts individual homeowners as long as they comply with certain things, as we just said, right? The single family, no more than 3, once every 2 years, owner-occupied 1 to 4 family, and so on, right? But the 1866 law, which is the basis of all this, it was the first law to defend civil rights. It was the first one. So if the first one, right, already came to say, hey, we got to stop discriminating, and all of a sudden this second law says, wait, let's put exemptions here, right? 102 years later, yeah, that law, no, we don't want it, right? Then the judge says, no, I don't care what exemptions 1968 law has. Any aggrieved person may seek remedy for racial discrimination under the 1866 law against any homeowner, regardless of whether the owner employed a real estate broker and or advertised the property. So, if it's based on race and color, none of those exemptions apply. Okay, so this Jones versus Mayer came pretty much to solidify the basis of everything, the 1866 law, the Civil Rights Act. You guys got it? So this is the one. You need to know Jones versus Mayer because it is a very important stepping stone, all right, where people were trying to completely ignore the first rule, the first law, right? They were trying to ignore it. Jones versus Mayer came to say, no. Let's look at the first law and its exemptions. Why was it created? Is there an exemption? The answer is no. Where race is involved, no exemptions or exceptions apply. I told you guys on Tuesday and Wednesday that every rule and every law has an exemption. Not this one. You got it? If it's based on race and color, no exemptions. Okay? You guys good? Mauricio is asking Google or Siri, one of them, asking them, what is Jones versus Mayer? Is that what you're doing, Mauricio? Just caught you on the phone, man. That's it. You're done. No credits for you. All right. So, now I want to show you something else because we're going to talk about equal housing poster. You're yelling at the kids on camera? Oh boy. Oh boy. Just make sure, is Juliana next to you or just send her to be with the kids? That's what we do at home. We alternate. This is my time and then it's your time. Like you're working now and now I'm working. So we switch. All right, so let's talk about the equal housing opportunity poster. I want you to see that poster and I hope it's visible on your screen. This is the top part of the poster. She's doing her nails? That's what you said? All right. Tell her not during my class, okay? All right, so I want you guys to tell me right now in the chat, what is the first thing you see here? Okay, what is the first thing that you see here? Tell me in the chat. The first thing you see is federal? Out of all the things popping at you, the first thing you see is one word, federal. Dimitar says logo. Blas says equal. David says illegal. Equal housing opportunity, legal to discriminate, logo. Okay. Courtney goes, U.S. Department. It's the first thing because it's the top thing. I know, I got you. All right. Here's the thing. This right here and this right here are key to every real estate business. If you have a show house, let's say you have a house that's prepped to be the open house, right? So for people to go there, let's say it's apartments or condos, and it's the model home, right? That's the show house or the model house, right? When people go there, this poster must be there that says that it's equal, that everybody's entitled to buy a house regardless of their race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin. If you come here to the school or to the real estate office, we have it right at the entrance. We have both the federal one, because this is the federal one, and we have the state poster. You can see it, it's visible on the way in, it's visible on the way out. Very, very important, because it says right here on the next page, page 53, that when HUD, Housing and Urban Development, investigates a broker for discriminatory practices, it considers failure to display the poster as evidence of discrimination. So they have a checklist of things to look for to see if you discriminate. They walk in, right? And they don't see these posters. All right, New Direction Realty, no poster. Check. 1 for 1, right? And then they keep on going. Guys, very, very important, because it's not the poster, just like it's not the badge, just like it's not your license, that's going to make you a better person. That's you, regardless. But having these things posted, it's kind of like a constant reminder, especially that's why I asked you guys, what is the first thing you see here? This equal is a constant reminder that everybody must be treated equally. This illegal to discriminate is a constant reminder, and the state poster is very similar. All right, so that's what it is. Having a badge, having these posters, having whatever saying that you uphold the law or you follow or abide by the laws, it's not really what's going to change the person itself, but it's a constant reminder. That's what you need to have. Okay. People don't change unless they really want to, unfortunately. All right, next. Blockbusting and steering. So what is blockbusting? Okay. What is blockbusting? It says right here, it's also known as panic peddling. So blockbusting is creating an urge, a necessity, a panic to do something. So I always talk about Blockbuster, the movie rental place, right? Some of you probably don't even know what that is because it's so long ago. But Blockbuster, one of the things they had is just like Black Friday is the same thing, is they created the rush. We have the latest and greatest right out of the movie theaters. If you want to watch this movie at home, you got to come now, or we can't guarantee they will be on the shelves, right? So that's what it was. And by the time you got there, the shelves were empty for that particular movie, right? They did this, and they did a bunch of marketing around it, just like we see when we go to the movies. So the idea behind blockbusting is creating this panic. Come now, or you lose the opportunity, right? We call this FOMO, the fear of missing out. I don't know if you guys ever heard that term, but FOMO, F-O-M-O, is the fear of missing out. And that's a practice used in marketing that the biggest marketers use, right? When they do promotions, like it's only available for the next 24 hours. As an example, if you don't come now, then the price is going to go up. On Black Friday, what do? They pretend to lower their prices. Just wait for Cyber Monday. It's a lot easier. But they pretend to lower their prices drastically. And if you peel off that sticker, the price that's behind is almost the same as the price that they're presenting to you. But they cause that panic motion for you to go there, right? What I want to show you is that in real estate, Blockbusting is creating panic for you to sell your property because of the prospective entry of minority persons into the neighborhood. So these protected classes, I'm telling you, hey, this group of people is moving into the neighborhood. Sell now before your house loses value. Do you understand? So if these minorities come in, already says, the word minority says that your value of your home is going to drop. That's what they're trying to say, right? So scaring people into selling their home because this group of people is moving in. And we see this constantly in every neighborhood, right? And the funniest thing is that, as I say in every class, the funniest thing is that, for instance, I'm Portuguese. Who am I going to tell to sell their property because these groups are moving into the neighborhood? I'm going to go to my people and tell them, hey, I'm Portuguese, you're Portuguese, we got to stick together. I'm just letting you know that this group of people is moving in, let's say here in Newark, moving into the Ironbound section, which is predominantly Portuguese, right? So they're moving in. So sell now before you lose value. Do you guys understand? If you're Mexican, then the Mexicans will tell their Mexican peers, sell now because this group is moving in, and so on. And that's how we make these things move. Again, panic peddling. Sell now before it's destroyed. Sell now before the community goes down and affects the value of your home. Sell now, sell now, sell now. So they frighten the homeowners into selling, and then they make profit by listing the homes or buying them cheaply. Some people are so small-minded, right, or narrow-minded, that wait a minute, this group is moving in already? Like, whatever you can get me for the house, it's paid for anyway. Whatever you can get me for the house. If it's $5, I'll sell it. I'll just move, right? So instead of getting the full value, and these realtors take advantage and buy them cheaply. Do you guys understand? So this is the reality. This still happens today. But the Federal Fair Housing Act prohibits this practice. You guys got it? Blockbusting, scaring people into selling because these protected groups or minority groups are moving in is illegal. Scaring people into selling because the market is crashing, that's obvious. It's okay. Sell now before you lose the whole value in your property. Okay, that's totally different. All right, let's see what we got here before I go into steering. So Nanette's asking if a house came to the market and an hour later this AR? Hold on. If a house came into the market and then an hour later it's under attorney review, that's what you're saying? Oh, okay. Sorry. Doesn't this go under equal opportunity? Why? What if it's being purchased by a minority? What does that matter? Going into, see, equal opportunity, we're talking about discrimination. An offer coming in and you putting pressure on the seller to accept any offer, that's just dumb. Has nothing to do with discrimination. You got it? A lot of realtors, that's what they do. Having a chance to put an offer, that's just done by the selling or the listing agent, the listing agent for not allowing more offers to come in. Because you never know if the second offer is better than the first. Simple. But it has nothing to do with discrimination. Okay? It's just you as a realtor were not able to explain to the seller that the more exposure it has, the more value it has. Right? So if you get to a point, think about it this way. You have popcorn. Has anybody ever made popcorn before? Right? If you've made popcorn before, I don't know how you do it, if you do microwave or if you do in the pot. I prefer the pot, but the comparison works for both. If you put in the microwave or if you put in the pot, right? There's a bunch of kernels there ready to pop. And you start hearing them pop, a lot of them, right? Pop, 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 and the more they pop, the better they are, right? But eventually, I don't know if you guys ever noticed, it starts slowing down. I don't know how you do, if you notice once it starts smelling burnt or if you notice when it starts slowing down. When it starts slowing down is the time to do what? To start lowering the heat or even turning it off so you don't burn. So the property needs to have exposure so all these offers pop in. If you just pop one, is that the best you can do with a full bag of popcorn? No. So here's my point. Explain to the seller. Let's go for the highest and best offer, for instance. Let's keep it exposed for 3, 4, 5 days. If these offers come in, great. If they stop coming in, then let's make a decision. Right? If you take too long to make a decision, then you burn. Because the people that put the offers already found another home. Good analogy? Okay. So again, it has nothing to do with discrimination. It has more to do with giving an opportunity for the seller to be exposed to the market. It has nothing to do with the buyers themselves. Okay? It's literally just realtors being dumb and taking whatever offer comes in. Okay? Or most likely, they're being too smart. They already had it under contract before it was listed, which is kind of illegal. And they just put it on the market because they had to. We talked about this yesterday, right? So they wanted to get the full commission. That's what it was. Anyway, so the next thing is steering. Now steering. You guys know what a steering wheel is, right? So steering wheel. What do we do with the steering wheel? We can accelerate the car, but if we don't steer, eventually we're going to hit something, right? So steering is maneuvering somewhere. In this case, steering is channeling home seekers either to or away from particular areas. And usually this is on the basis of race, religion, country of origin, or other protected class. So what we're saying here is, oh, you're a little, your tone is not the same tone as the group of people that live here. I don't think you should buy here. You should, I think your group is over there. That is steering. Do you guys understand? That is when you're trying to take people away. What if I want to live over there in that group of people? What if they want to leave over here with this group of people, right? Just because I'm Portuguese doesn't mean I want to live in the middle of Newark. I did. I don't anymore. I don't get out of Newark, but I did live in Newark. I don't anymore. You see what I'm saying? So don't think because I'm Portuguese, the first thing you're going to do is, hey, here's a two-family. Got it right here, Newark. You got it? Do you guys understand? So steering is you're trying to put people in certain areas based on what you believe that is best for them. Okay? Now, this is a prohibited act as well. The problem is steering is most of the times difficult to determine, okay? Because the steering tactics can be so subtle that a home seeker is unaware that his or her choices have been limited. Realtors, you guys know how to do this? You know how to prep your client to say, there's nothing on the market in that area. Let's look at properties in this area. Simple as that. How would you know, right? And then I'll always tell you, because this is the truth though, I'll always tell you that Zillow most of the times is incorrect. It says, Zillow says active, but if you go on the MLS, it's already under attorney review or under contract, and sometimes even already closed. It's active on Zillow for 3 months, but already closed 2 months ago. Do you understand? So it's simple tactics that they use to pretty much cut you off of going from going to that area. Sometimes it's just unintentional. Sometimes you just assumed or presumed because I am Portuguese that ironbound would be the best for me. Sometimes you do it on purpose, sometimes it's unintentional. So this right here, the steering, I want to tell you guys that you have to be very, very careful with this. Never assume or presume anything. Okay? And here it's difficult for me to do, but usually in class what I do is I put a picture of my kids. Because I have 4 kids and none of them are alike in terms of skin tone. Okay? So I have a very, very, very black kid. I have a very, very, very white kid. I got one that's caramel and one that's, I'm still trying to figure out what his tone is, but it's somewhere in between. All right? So let's imagine when they grow up and they want to buy houses together, but one goes with one realtor and the other one goes with the other realtor, so they cover more ground. What do you think is going to happen? I already have trouble with them in school. When I go pick one up and they're like, they look at me and they look at the kid and they're like, you sure that that's your dad, or vice versa? Like, who you're here to pick up? Are you sure it's Kayleen you want to pick up, for instance? That's the black kid, in case you guys didn't figure it out. So it is tough. And the mother has problems too picking up the white kid, because then it's kind of like, are you the babysitter? Like, nowadays you can't do this anymore, right? It's so mixed that you cannot say anything like that anymore. You can't assume or presume. You cannot. The unintentional thing does not work anymore either. You have to be aware of your actions and take responsibility for those actions. You guys got it? Yes? Great. All right. Now, redlining. In front of redlining, I want you to write, I want you to remember this, that every time you see redlining is refusing or rejecting insurance or loans. Okay, so what I want you to remember about redlining is a mortgage company saying, no, I'm not going to lend to you. Or insurance company saying, no, I'm not going to insure you. And this is based on the area that you live in instead of your economic qualifications. So redlining is they go on a map and they look at certain areas and they cover them in the shade red. If you live in this area, you're not getting a loan, you're not getting insurance. All right? I don't care how qualified you are. You live in this area, not getting it. Okay? And that is illegal as well. Redlining is illegal. Okay? You guys good? Redlining, refusing or rejecting insurance or loans. Gotta remember that. That's when we go through the questions at the end of in 3 weeks from now, when we go through the questions, there's a question that actually says that, and it says rejecting insurance. The moment you see rejecting, the moment you see this, that should automatically tell you that it's redlining immediately. So refusing or rejecting, immediately redlining. Okay? Next, we got enforcement. Is redlining discrimination? Yeah, I'm discriminating based on where you live and the group of people that you associate with. Okay? Now, what you guys will know and what you guys will see often is what they do now is they charge you higher premiums because you live in a particular area, and that's based on statistics. It's not based on the race. Okay? So statistically, certain areas, we have more accidents. We have more crime. So the more populated the area is, the more expensive your insurance will be. Does that make sense? Because the more populated it is, more prone to certain accidents or crimes. If you're in a remote area or less amount of houses or people in the area, then the insurance will be a lot cheaper. And I'll give you an example. When I moved out of Newark, my insurance dropped roughly 60%. So whatever I was paying in Newark, right, it dropped, I'm telling you, like 60% it dropped almost. Just by moving to an area that has less population. It's not only because of Newark itself, it's just like certain areas of Newark and the crime rates and all that. It's just in general, overall populated, and the more people, the more accidents can occur. Okay? So, let's go to enforcement. We already addressed the rules, the guidelines. Now it's enforcement. So, I want to point out this right here. illegal, right? Discrimination, because there's legal discrimination, and legal discrimination is the exemptions we went over, right? But then it's this. A person who believes that illegal discrimination has occurred, believes, right? I don't have to prove, I believe, right? That illegal discrimination has occurred, has up to 1 year after the alleged act to file a charge with HUD. So 1 year to file a charge with HUD, or 2 years to bring a federal suit. 2 years to bring a federal suit. Okay? 1 year to go to HUD, 2 years for a federal lawsuit. If you go to HUD, they will investigate, and if the department believes, again, believes that a discriminatory act has occurred, then, or is about to occur, they may issue a charge. Any party involved, or HUD, may choose to have the charge heard in the federal district court, and if no one requests a procedure, then the charge will be heard by an administrative judge within HUD itself. So if we don't go to court, judge will have somebody determine, HUD will have somebody determine the actions. So Steph goes, so no evidence is required to file. Not really. What kind of evidence can you have? Right? When it comes to discrimination, what kind of evidence can you have? Unless you have witnesses, unless you have something in writing that it says discrimination has occurred, it's very difficult for you to prove discrimination. So you have to file an action for an investigation to occur and see if the person actually discriminates or not. So that's how it is. It's tough. Now, what happens is the administrative law judge within HUD, right, has the authority to issue an injunction. What is an injunction? It's an order. An injunction is an order. So make sure you guys read this right. An injunction is an order. In this case, an order to take action, right? Take action or refrain from taking action. So either forcing you to do something or forcing you not to do it. It's an order for you to do something or stop doing something. But that's not where it stops. So Maria, again, I told you it's your first day. The rest of the people here already experienced fines yesterday. So for you and for everybody, in addition to that order, penalties can be imposed ranging from $19,787 for the first violation to $49,467 for a second violation within 5 years, or even $98,935 for further violations within 7 years. Again, still not bad because a couple of houses sold and it covers. So you guys are good, you can discriminate, no problem, right? But do you think it stops here with fines or fees? No. In fact, if the case is heard in federal court, then you're going to receive an order, the injunction, right? And actual and punitive damages are possible. So actual damages is what the party actually suffered from your action. Punitive damages is the judge punishing you. It's the judge telling you, hey, based on what you just did, I'm going to fine you $3 million so you don't do it again. Right? Isn't that what we do like with kids, for instance? Like, hey, because of what you did right now, here's the consequence. I'm going to take this away from you. So because they cannot take stuff away from you, they give you a fine, a punishment, right? And look what it says. Let me zoom in. Hopefully we will not freeze on this one either. Do you guys see this? This is the punitive damage right here. How much is the punitive damage? How much is the punitive damage? It's no dollar limit. So it's whatever the judge feels like that day, that will be your fine. So if you woke up on the right side of the bed, your fine might be $200,000. If you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, your fine might be $3, $4, $5 million. Again, it's up to the judge No dollar limits. That's what it is. You guys got it? Okay. Do you think that's enough? Or you want some more? Of course there's more. In fact, as we read this stuff, to me, like I've been teaching this for so many years, but to me, as I teach this stuff and then seeing what happens in real life, it's kind of like nobody really reads these laws or takes or pays attention to it or actually enforces them, right? But you'd be wrong. A couple of years ago, not too long ago, in 2013 or 14, if I'm not mistaken, this couple got arrested for discrimination. They yelled racial slurs to a kid in the middle of a birthday party. Both of them got arrested. One of them got 7 years, the other one got 11 years or something like that, and millions of dollars in fines. So it did happen. All right. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen as often as it should, based on certain people's actions. But they are here. They're right here in the law as you see it, right? And on top of it, in addition to the offended parties, so in addition to the plaintiffs, the people that are complaining about you, the Department of Justice may itself sue anyone who seems to show a pattern of illegal discrimination. Okay? But wait, there's more. In all such cases mentioned, the guilty party may be required to pay the other side's legal fees and court costs. So if they win, you have to pay for their attorney and whatever the fees were on top of the punishment, on top of the actual damages, on top of the fines, and all that stuff. Another thing, it says complaints brought under the Civil Rights Act of 1866 must be taken directly to federal courts. Question, write down in the answers. Marie, I'll address you in a second. Write down in the chat right now, what is 1866? What was it all about? That's right, race and color. Perfect. Okay, so 1866, race and color. So if the discrimination, what you believe that you were discriminated by, was based on race or color, you have to take it directly to federal court. It's not a HUD issue, it's straight to federal court. So it's a lawsuit, and you have 2 years to do so. Okay? So if it's based on race and color, based on 1866, straight to federal court. We're good, right? That's it, right? No, Victoria, she's going like this. No, Victoria, there's more. There is more. Yeah, look. The only time limit for action would be the state statutes of limitation for torts. That's injuries done by one individual to another. And there would be, one more time, or in the great words of Martin Lawrence, one more again, no dollar limit on damages. All right, raise your hand if you're broke by now, if you want to declare bankruptcy right after what I just read. Right? So, should we discriminate? Like, you'll get away with it once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times maybe. But when you get caught, this is what you got to deal with. No dollar limits. Right up there we had no dollar limits. $19,000 fines for the first time, $49,000 for a second, and so on. Paying other sides court costs and fees. Do you guys understand? So this was to address Maria. She asked earlier, so we have these laws but no enforcement. Well, again, until somebody actually complains and takes forward the action. The laws are there. They're clear and they're widely known. But if nobody takes action, there's no dollar limit on anything because it doesn't exist. Do you guys understand? Okay? I'm not saying now for you guys to go in and sue people so you can get paid millions of dollars. Because if you sue me, you're going to get zero. Does that make sense? So I'm also not promoting you to go sue millionaires in order to, or billionaires in order to get paid. The point is, if nobody complains, if nobody takes action, it'll be very difficult to prove that these things actually exist. And a lot of people till today believe that discrimination or racism does not exist. I don't know how, but that's what they believe. All right. Erica says that's why LLC exists. All right. Let me address LLCs real quick. It's for a different chapter, chapter 17. But in this scenario, if it's fraud or if it's something that like this, that it's an injury to an individual directly, it's not to the consumer as a consumer or as a business to business. This is directly to the core of humanity. You might not have any protection under an LLC. You might not have it. Now, what LLCs will have and corps and all that stuff will have is an insurance that might cover some mistakes. And that's what the attorneys will always try to defend as. And you'll notice this from cop cases. We'll always try to defend as, hey, it was a mistake, it wasn't intentional, right? So same thing happens with medical malpractice. It was a mistake, it was not intentional. Even though some doctors know that you couldn't ever possibly give chemotherapy to certain people, and they still do. Just giving you examples, all right? So I'm talking about, this is something that's dear to me because my mom passed away from cancer, and the treatment that she was enduring it was impossible for her body, for her situation, to be able to resist the treatment. It was impossible. And could I sue the doctor? Yeah, I requested the documents and everything, but then I just gave up because it's going to take several years and it was just not worth it for me. It was not going to bring her back. They made a mistake. Unfortunately, I lost my mom and there's nothing I could do at that moment, so I just gave up, right? Not worth it. Do you guys understand? So LLCs, insurance, I mean, they exist for protection, but certain things like fraud or anything that's against humanity, it's not covered under that umbrella. Let's put it like that. But again, you have to prove that it existed. Now you have to push the envelope and make sure you can prove that actually existed. Okay? Taylor Rhodes, if you are an LLC, you report your income on a 1040, leaving you and your company and yourself equally liable. Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of loopholes, guys. LLCs are great. I believe strongly in LLCs and protecting yourself. But that doesn't mean you can go out there and just rob, kill people, discriminate, and you have no protection against that. Okay? Unless you're too big to fail and you cannot be brought down because you have big people in big places. That will be a different story. Now, threats or acts of violence. Threats or acts of violence. These are okay. We all know threats or acts of violence are okay, right? Pretty much? No? You sure? Of course not. In fact, look right here. Unlawful actions, wrong marker. Unlawful actions involving threats, coercion, and intimidation are punishable by appropriate civil action. If you receive a threat, if you're forced to do something or intimidated into something, then you have to report immediately to the local police and to the nearest office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Again, I'm not guaranteeing that you're going to get results out of it, but this is what you're supposed to do. Okay? And with that, we're done with federal. That's federal laws. We're going to go into state law. You guys ready? Going to go into state law. So we have New Jersey law against discrimination. Jeff just wrote HSBC bank prime example. Listen, we could talk about banks all day long and what they do. There's so much that happens behind the scenes that you guys don't even know. and how they play with your money and they play with you, and it's just, anyway, we'll talk about it in a different chapter. In chapter 15, I'll give you a little hint of what really happens. So, New Jersey law against discrimination. Here's what you need to know. Very, very important, guys. It's very important that you note that while federal laws, as we were talking about, they apply to residential housing, if you guys remember, the federal side of it applies only to selling or leasing residential housing. New Jersey law applies to all real property, meaning residential, commercial, industrial, recreational, and institutional. All 5 classifications are protected in New Jersey. In federal law, if you're selling commercial, discriminate if you want. Residential, no, but commercial doesn't matter. Jersey law says, we don't play that game. Okay, I really don't like Jersey laws that much, but this one I do, and I mentioned in every class. This one I do, and this is why. Let's go to the next page at the bottom. Next page at the bottom, we have a table, and I'll zoom in a second. I just want you guys to go to this table. This is on page 54, and what I want you to do, if you guys can, if you don't have a physical book, don't, but find another way. But what I want you to do is this: highlight around that table. This is your cheat sheet for discrimination. What do I mean by that? Let me zoom in real quick. This is what I mean. It says right here, Civil Rights Act of 1866. What does it cover? Race and color, right? So it's a cheat sheet for you to remember. Fair Housing Act of 1968. What does it cover? Race, color, religion, national origin, and nothing else, right? Let's look at New Jersey, all the way at the bottom, the last one. What does Jersey cover? Look at that. Look at that. Everything. Jersey covers everything. So federal law in different instances cover different things, right? But Jersey law covers everything. And with that being said, I also want you to pay attention to this. Maria, it's page 54. Maria, did you get access to the student portal? I think I spoke with you over the phone before the class. In the student portal, in each section, there's the pages for each chapter, or if you scroll all the way down to student resources, there's a link there for the book itself, okay? And it's already highlighted for you. So these are the things. I don't know if you guys can rotate your head, but it says right here that in this table, New Jersey covers race, color, religion, national origin, sex or gender, as I said. Age is covered under federal law, but state law just created additional stuff to enforce. Marital status. So very important. Jersey covers marital status. That might be a question in the state exam. Disability, familial status, lawful source of income, ancestry. State exam might have a question towards affectional or sexual orientation, nationality, and they might have a question based on gender, identity, or expression. So Jersey covers all this stuff. You guys got it? Jersey covers it all. You got to remember, there might be a question there. I just read your message, Shakia. Thank you. All right. So, again, this is what we're going to get into. The prohibited activities, they're very similar to the federal prohibited activities, but then I want to focus on exceptions. Exceptions. And what I want you to notice about Jersey exceptions, what I want you to notice about it, is that the only exception applies to rentals. Take a note of that somewhere in your notebook, wherever you're taking your notes, write it in big letters. In Jersey, the only exception is towards rentals. So if there's a question that talks about sales, are sales exempted in New Jersey? No. Rentals only. Okay? So it allows rooms, apartments, or flats in certain types of housing to be restricted to members of one sex. Okay? Religious-based organizations to discriminate on the basis of religion. Again, the membership, right? And I don't know if you guys remember this from Nanette. Are you drinking whiskey at this time? It's early. That's tea? Okay, I'm just messing. So I don't know if you guys remember this from federal, but do you remember this? Where it said owner-occupant? Under federal law, 1 to 4 family, owner-occupied, and you can discriminate against the people that will live in the 3 other units. Jersey law says no. In Jersey, we understand federal law, but we made it stricter in Jersey. So we honor the federal law, we just made it stricter in Jersey. We allow you to discriminate only in the rental of a duplex or up and down 2-family dwelling. So the only discrimination allowed, legal discrimination allowed, is if you live in a 2-family, whether it's a duplex, so side by side, or if it's an up and down 2-family. So federal, 1 to 4. Jersey, it's a 2-family only. I haven't seen this question that often lately, but I had it in the beginning when I started teaching. In fact, in my exam came with this question. And the reason why I enforce so much paying attention to these details is because I got stuck for 14 minutes. I say this in every single class. I got stuck for 14 minutes trying to figure this out. First of all, my mom taught me not to discriminate, right? And then the question says, under state law, when are you allowed to discriminate? So I got stuck there for 14 minutes looking at all 4 answers. I'm like, you shouldn't discriminate regardless. Like, which one of these is correct, right? So I battled with it, right? I even skipped it for later. But again, under state law, if it's owner-occupant. Under federal law, if it's owner-occupant. So remember, if the question says under state law, it's 2-family. If the question says under federal law, when are you allowed to discriminate? It's the 1 to 4 family. You guys got it? Thumbs up on that? Okay, if you have questions, throw them here, okay? Yes, Maria. So both federal and state apply. This here applies to rentals, this exemption. Yep. Oh, and I see here that you found the book. Great. The only thing I cannot give you guys is the actual state exam questions. That I can't. Other than that, I'll give you almost all the hints and almost all the resources you need. Okay? Oh, and I cannot be there for you. So just in case you're wondering, I've had somebody ask me, this guy, Eric, I'm not Obama. It's not like, yes, you can. No, can't. Sorry. But this guy pulls out his, I'm pulling out my business card. But this guy pulls out his driver's license, puts right next to me and looks at his driver's license. Goes like, Burnham, they will never be able to tell. We look alike. Can you take the exam for me? Okay. It's been 4 years, he's still not licensed. He was willing to pay. I said no. Like, bro, come on, I don't care how much. Just give me a number, just go. I'm like, no, not gonna do it. Okay? So the only thing I cannot do is give you the actual questions or be part of the exam for you. Okay? Jersey. Jersey says, Mr. Furman, I think me and you can definitely pull it off. We're very alike. Very alike. So, gotta remember the same thing as in federal. It says, there is never an exception for race. And this is whether or not a broker is involved. So, the rules are the same for federal and state. You guys good so far? Yeah? Okay. We are now on page 55. Quick mention here about blockbusting and record keeping. Under federal, we already said that blockbusting is illegal. State law says it is illegal, and in fact, I want you, the office, you and your office, to keep permanent records of all your marketing activity for at least 1 year. But this applies when you're trying to solicit listings from more than 3 homeowners in a block during a single month. So if you advertise, you mass advertise to a particular block, let's say you skip some doors. What they want to know is, why did you skip a few of these doors? Like, why did you go to 102 Main Street and you went to 104 Main Street? You skipped 106 Main Street, you went to 108, 110, and then you skipped 112. Why did you skip these particular doors? They want to make sure that you're not skipping them because of discrimination. You guys understand? Sometimes it's because you're marketing, like, and you're going to be trained on this most likely. We're doing here at the office, we have an agent here that's just, 2 agents right now, blasting a bunch of letters to expired listings, right? So if you're addressing expired listings, and sometimes they're all in the same block, like there's 3 or 4 in the same block. And you can say, no, my type of marketing was for expired listings, or my type of marketing was for people that moved into the neighborhood in the past 5 years, because the average American moves every 5 years. So it's a perfect marketing piece for those. And that's why I skipped a few doors. It was not because this one is Hispanic, and not because this one is black or this one is white. No, I didn't do it because of that. I did it because marketing purposes was mortgages with 5 years or more, or expired listings, or whatever. Does that make sense? As long as it's not attached to anything racial or any of these protected classes, you should be good. So the records must include the names and addresses of those solicited, the name of the licensee in the office that was involved in this activity, the date of the activity, and must be made available to the commission if you ever get audited. Okay? Again, for up to 1 year. Jersey, I mentioned that Jersey has their own poster as well. We looked at the federal poster. There's a Jersey poster. If HUD investigates, which is a federal entity, if they investigate an office and they see that the federal poster is not there, then first step for discrimination, check off, right? Jersey says you don't have a poster, you have a fine of $100 or more. So immediately you get fined for not having a piece of paper on the wall. Okay? Enforcement. It says here that for Jersey, the complaints brought under New Jersey law against discrimination must be filed with the state's attorney general within 6 months. Do you guys remember how long do you have to file a lawsuit or to bring it to HUD in federal? Give me the answer. Put it in the chat right now. One year for HUDs? Absolutely. Or 2 years. Steph, what's that 2 years for? Ria, I cannot see you. Jasiel, I can see you kinda. Ria's smart. She puts a background that it's her picture. She gets out of it, gets in. Do you guys see, as some of you are answering, do you guys see this kid in college that filmed himself, right? He filmed himself and put himself in front of the Zoom session with a professor, right? And he would be nodding or looking down and then looking up. He actually filmed himself for an hour, and then that's what he did. He placed himself there just to record attendance. People are too smart, right? I know that's what you were doing, Ria. You trying to feed your kids? Can I be your kid? Because I'm hungry right now. Send me some food. Jeff just said a lot of high schoolers are doing that. This was a college kid, not a high schooler. But yeah, take advantage of it, right? Except here, I get to ask you questions and see if you participate or not. And I pick on people. So if they don't respond, I know they're not there. Gotta be smarter than you guys. Oh, Juliana's here. How are the nails? Good? All right. So Mauricio, now you can send her to take care of the kids so you don't yell at them. All right. You see how I do these things? Keep you guys engaged. There you go. I know you're there, Ria. I was just messing with you. I saw you moving a little bit, so I know you're there. All right. Next thing we got. In the previous class, I was constantly picking on Leo, so now I have to pick on somebody else regarding that. Next, we got the director of the Division of Civil Rights may award reimbursement for medical expenses, awards for pain, suffering, and humiliation. This part that I have in green, again, it's like the no dollar limit on the federal side. And if you guys understand the expenses that we have in medication, you'll understand that somebody that gets affected by discrimination might have a lifelong disability. Okay? For some people, it's very traumatic. Others, they just learn to live with it. That's what it is. So I was a victim of bullying in my school. I was a victim of discrimination in my school. And it got to a point that the only way that I could defend myself was make fun of myself before they did. All right? So it got to a point where nobody else bothered me and I get away with it. Now, my partner picks on me the whole time, so now I have to pick on him too. That's the only way that we can survive here at this office. So be ready. What I do to you guys through the camera, that's what I suffer here every day with my partner. And in 3, 2, 1, I should have a message from him because he's watching. He has nothing else to do. He picks on me, but he has nothing else to do but to watch my classes every day for some reason. All right. Now, here's the other thing. You're going to get hit with fines. So this is state fines of $10,000, $25,000 for second offense, and up to $50,000 for subsequent offenses. Do you guys remember that we also have these in federal, right? So this is add-on to those fines. So you had a $19,000 fine for the first offense plus 10 in state, right? 40. You see, I told you I was going to get a message. He just did. I'm telling you, he has nothing to do. He's just listening to you guys and me. You had a 49,000 plus a 25 right here, and 98,000 plus a 50 right here. So you get federal and state fines. Next thing we have on the right hand side on top. This is very, very important. Very, very important. I want you to put a note here. Page 57 and page 58. Because that's the notice that you must present at listing. He wants me to repeat whatever I was saying about him, so no, I'm not going to repeat it. Go watch the replay. All right, so page 57 and page 58 is where you're going to find this, what we call Attorney General Memorandum on Law Against Discrimination. Okay? Every listing must be provided with this memorandum. And if people, after reading, so what the memorandum says is what we've been talking about so far, about discrimination, that you can't discriminate, and if you intend to discriminate, then there's going to be fines, fees, and possible jail time, right? So that's what it says. So you have to present in every listing, and if the owner indicates that they intend to violate the law, that they really don't care about that, they still don't want certain groups of people to see their home, then guys, you must refuse those listings. A quick buck is not worth jail time and all those penalties. Do you guys understand? Say yes? Thumbs up? Good. So do not engage in any type of contract with people that intend to discriminate, because the moment you do, you are liable for their actions. Because if they discriminate and you're their agent, then you discriminate. And guess what? So does your broker. So now it's a whole investigation. Your license could be suspended during that period of time, right? And I don't think neither your broker or you or your co-workers want that to happen. All right? Next thing. State regulation on rentals. It says here, source of income or children in family. Source of income or children in family. I already addressed this before about the children and family, but source of income. Look at here. It says, while these two categories are not listed as protected classes in New Jersey law against discrimination, right? It's mentioned in federal, but it's not specific in New Jersey, right? State statutes. So this is not law against discrimination. This is state statutes prohibit refusing to rent because of the would-be tenant's lawful source of income. What is a lawful source of income? Anything that you can prove. In this case, it covers income derived from welfare or other subsidy like Section 8 housing funds. See, if the tenant says, I make cash, if they make cash, can you prove their income? No. Can you prove where it comes from? No. Right? But Section 8 or welfare, it comes directly from the government. So it's a lawful source of income. You cannot discriminate against people on welfare or people that are receiving Section 8 housing funds. That's state law. You guys got it? Here's another one. I already mentioned, we're saying it again, that state statute also prohibits the refusal to rent to families with children under 18 years of age. So you cannot say no children allowed. David goes, that's guaranteed money basically. Absolutely. My favorite kind of tenants actually, because I don't have to chase them for the money. And my tenants, I treat them so well that they take care of the property for me. So I don't need property managers. All right, so guaranteed money, don't need property managers. Why not? All right, think about it. Other provisions. It says right here that a landlord cannot refuse to rent a one-bedroom apartment to two members of the same sex if the same apartment will be available to members of the opposite sex who are equally qualified. It is illegal to subject a tenant to sexual harassment. So my concept of this is very simple. Whatever they do behind closed doors is their problem. As long as they pay the rent on time and maintain my apartment, I really don't care. Does that make sense? Stop getting into other people's businesses. You cannot handle your own and you're trying to figure out why they do what they do? Who cares? Pay me my rent. Give me my money. That's it. You guys got it? It's almost like the United States always meddling with other countries. Like, you can't figure out what's happening here and you're meddling with other countries? Waste your resources here. That's where it's needed right now. That's what I keep on saying. And if every country did the same, this would be a perfect world. Next, a lease may not provide that it will become null and void on the birth of a child. So I rent to two of you, and all of a sudden one of you decides to get pregnant. And I say, no, the lease clearly says, get out. Congratulations, you're pregnant, get out. The law says no, you cannot have that clause in a lease. Okay? For those of you smiling, there is a way to kick people out legally and lawfully. I told you, loopholes always, right? I'll get there in a second. A facility that does not admit pets, and it's okay to say no pets allowed, it's okay, it's not discriminatory. But a facility that does not admit pets must permit a guide or service dog. Okay? And you're not entitled to question. That will be discriminatory as well. You're not entitled to question why they have it. What is the reason they have a guide or service dog, or the emotional support and all that stuff? You cannot. The same way that you cannot ask a person with AIDS how they got it or why they got it and do they have it. And if you find out that they have it, they are protected because it is a disability. So you cannot kick them out because they have it. Okay? Now, remember I said that you could kick people out legally and lawfully if they have a child? Right? Here you go. Landlords are allowed to enforce, right here, health regulations limiting the number of persons allowed for the size of any given apartment. So what we're saying is, if I rent a one-bedroom apartment and now there's a child, there are rules, health and safety rules, by the state and by the federal laws that clearly state if there's a child, they can live or very much live or sleep with the parents for up to 6 months. Beyond that, they have to have their own room. If it's a single parent, then the law, I think it's 5 or 6 years. Up to 5 or 6 years, they can stay with the single parent. But you need to know what your town has, because certain towns have also restrictions on this. And that's the only way that it would be legal to kick somebody out. I'll give you an example. At one point, one of my 4 children was part of a rental that I was in. And as soon as the landlord found out, so the community where I was, found out that the wife was pregnant, they sent me a notice and says, "Congratulations. By the way, just saying, we will not be renewing your lease beyond 6 months after the child is born. So we suggest that you start looking for a new place now. Or we have these units that have more bedrooms available. Would you like to upgrade?" So they were nice about it, but they give me a heads up, and they quoted whatever the state statute or federal statute that says that they're entitled to do so. Okay? So it's based on health regulations where they limit the number of persons allowed for the size of any given apartment. All right? Next, when can you really discriminate without even blinking? Well, based on their ability to pay the rent, so whatever income they bring, and based on their likelihood of doing so. If you pull a credit report and you see a low credit score, can you say, "I'm not renting to you"? You can. Nothing wrong with that. Okay? Unfortunately, again, like I said about criminal records, you don't know the reason why the person got to that point. Maybe they are very responsible with their finances. Maybe it was just a twist of faith and something happened and boom, they have a bad credit score. We don't know. But as soon as I see it, if I don't want to rent to you, I can reject you. That's what we're saying. So income, you don't make enough income to support this rent, or credit rating, you don't have the desired credit rating that I'm looking for. Okay? What I want to say with this right now, guys, I'm always giving you hints, things you can do or not do. What I want to say with this is very simple. Never discard any tenant. If they apply, work with them. They might not be able to to rent a house, but they might be able to buy in the near future. So coach them on getting their finances in order. And hey, I'm sorry it didn't work out for this rental, but how about we fix this or fix that, or let's do a credit consultation with somebody and get you ready to buy a house. Meanwhile, try to save some money for the down payment. Does that make sense? So a lot of realtors, you didn't qualify. Sorry, bye. Never leave that much money on the table. You got it? That is free leads. When they come for rentals, it's free purchasing leads. Okay? All right. Let me see. Sorry, I'm just doing my random checks. Some people still have cameras off. Remember, if your cameras are off and this counts towards your hours, I need you to have the cameras on. So I'm just letting you know. Jeff just said they would appreciate the credit counseling. Absolutely. Even for rentals. So they don't qualify now, they qualify later for a different rental. This way you keep on pursuing. And again, remember what I said yesterday about Victoria ignoring the client, right? And that's why, was it Josh that took over the client, right? They put an offer. So if you guys remember that, I was telling you that the key is follow-up. Very important. When you pass somebody along to the credit specialist, for instance, or to the mortgage specialist, make sure once in a while you do a little touch. And the touch we call is sending a text message, sending an email, a quick phone call. But try to keep up with them. Very, very important. Never let your clients go, because eventually somebody else will show up and they'll become somebody else's clients. Does that make sense? Same thing that happened in my example with Victoria and Josh yesterday. All right? And the more resources you have, the better it is. Just like Jeff wrote, they will appreciate the credit counseling. They will appreciate that you have these resources for them. So it's one way to grow your business. Next, I'm going to show you real quick page 57 and page 58 that I was telling you. This is the Memorandum of Law against Discrimination. So do not print this. There's an updated one, 2017, I believe. But make sure you present it. I mean, your broker will have it available for you. But make sure you present this to every listing. For those of you wondering, I'm about to, almost done with this chapter, about to give you a break. So we're getting there. I see some faces like, is this over yet? All right. Leo just said, Ria, nice picture. Hey, Leo, it's better than yours in the middle of the woods, right? Just saying. What do we got? Brian says, can a landlord raise rent because another person moved into your unit? For example, if I have a 2-bedroom for myself and my friend moves in with me. Absolutely. See, the value that I gave you was based on X amount of people. Now there's an additional person, there's additional water being spent. There, if I provide heat, there's additional heat being spent. There's additional resources and wear and tear of the property that was not expected. So can I charge you more? Yeah, I can charge you $100 more, $200 more, $500 more, whatever I feel like. All right? So yes, absolutely. But you have to always go back to what your lease says. All right? It's based on what's worded in the lease. But again, the answer is yes. And I'll tell you this because I had, again, I have all these examples to give. I did have a property where I rented to one person, a 3-bedroom. The guy said he was going to use one bedroom for the office, the smaller one. The other one was going to be like his gym. And then the master bedroom is where he was going to sleep, right? Not even a week later, there's like 10 people living there. So yeah, I'm entitled to charge whatever I want for the extra people. Okay. Next, we're on page 59. We have multiple dwelling reporting. And it says here that owners of developments containing 25 or more apartments, they must file an annual report with the State Division of Civil Rights. Now, why do they require this? Because if you have 25 units or more, they want to make sure that you're not advertising based on race. Okay? They want to make sure, let's say, if your property is in a predominantly Hispanic community, what is most likely going to be the composition or the racial composition of your building? Most likely Hispanics, right? What they want to know is that your method of advertising and handling the inquiries was not strictly pointed at that group of people. They want to make sure that you have equal opportunity, that you open your advertisement to whoever wants to live there. Do you guys understand? So if you have 25 or more units, you must report every year to the Division of Civil Rights. All right, next thing we have is Mount Laurel 1 and 2. Does anybody know Mount Laurel or heard of Mount Laurel? Give me a heads up. Tell me about it. Talk to me about it. Mount Laurel. I'm waiting. Don't read. All right. So, taking a while. All right, Mount Laurel. What happened with Mount Laurel, they got sued twice. In the first lawsuit in 1971, so have you guys noticed that most of these things are happening recently? And when I say recent, again, I know this is 1970, it's not that recent, but compared to 1,900 and something years, it is recent, right? So if you guys notice, since 1866, a lot of things have been moving positively, I think. So what happened was, in 1971, NACP sued Mount Laurel, okay? The town of Mount Laurel was illegally discriminating against low-income and moderate-income, right here, low-income and moderate-income persons through the use of what we call exclusionary zoning. And as the word says, exclusionary, meaning excluding them from residential areas, okay? The court stated that all developing communities had to zone for their fair share of regional needs for low income and moderate income. By 1975, they made a decision. So it took 4 years for this to happen. But in 1975, they made a decision. They said that the poor may not be excluded from residential areas. Okay? So Mount Laurel was trying to be an elite town and says, oh, you don't make this much money? Get out. You don't qualify to live here. Can't do that. But obviously, if we said in this title Mount Laurel 1 and Mount Laurel 2, this means what? It means that they got sued again. Nanette's saying that she cannot hear. Are you guys able to hear me? All right. Nanette, can you hear me? She can't hear me. Okay. Log out, log back in. Yep. All right, cool. So they got sued again. And this resulted in the courts providing specific guidelines for all, the key word is this, developing communities. So all developing communities now have an obligation to provide a range of housing. So they have to have higher density developments, right? 20% set aside, zoning for mobile homes, right? And the requirement that communities work together to provide or obtain subsidies. So again, the key word is developing. Because a lot of you are going to say, well, there's some towns that don't have low moderate income. Well, if they haven't approved new developments, right? It's not building a new house, it's a new development, so multiple homes, right? If they haven't approved new developments, do they have to comply with these laws? The answer is no, right? So any new development must be approved by the city. And if the city does not have these set-asides for a higher density developments or 20% set aside for zoning, mobile homes and all that stuff, then they can get sued as well. Newark was sued a couple of years ago. Edgewater was sued. Patterson was sued. There's so many towns in New Jersey that got sued recently for not complying with these rules. And you're probably thinking, wait, how did Newark get sued? Because what we're saying is that the new developments that were being approved were solely targeted towards luxury apartments. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. It's not that Newark did not have low and moderate income housing areas, right? It's the fact that the new developments that were approved went against this law. It would eliminate the low and moderate income in certain areas of Newark. You guys got it? Same thing happened in Patterson, Edgewater, and so on. Well, Maria, the being pricey, that's supply and demand. That's something else. The being pricey is supply and demand. People, I already knew this was going to happen. As soon as they started announcing that we're not going to renew in New York, they were not going to renew the rent control, I knew that in New York the prices were going to go up and people would now move out of New York. So what's the next best thing? 15 minutes away by train, you get to Jersey City, right? Not even 15 minutes, right? 15 to 20 minutes, you get Jersey City, Harrison, Newark. Anything along the train line has increased in value and the rental demand. So that's what happened. That's supply and demand. It was really not the discrimination thing. But the developers did take advantage of that situation, try to get approved for luxury developments, right? Just like we see in Harrison, a bunch of them, right? We see downtown Jersey City, we see Newark, we see Broad Street, a lot of new developments, the same, and the Ironbound section. They took advantage of that, brand new developments, because they know they can start charging New York prices. Supply and demand. You guys understand? Shakia just wrote, I would like to live under Whole Foods, but not for $3,000. That's actually cheap. Just kidding. If you're going to pay $3,000 to live somewhere, guys, let's buy houses. Just saying. $3,000, pay a mortgage. Get a 2 or 3 family and then get your tenants to pay you for that mortgage. And you can have it very close to Whole Foods if you want. All right. Next thing we got is, no, Nanette, we did not finish the chapter yet. I was trying to speed up before you got back, but didn't have a chance. The next thing, we're almost done with the chapter. The next thing we got is HUD and NAR Fair Housing Partnership. Just addressing this real quick, HUD and NAR made a partnership with amongst themselves. So we have a federal entity and we have a private entity, and NAR is the National Association of Realtors, which most of you will belong to, or all of you will belong to. We made an agreement with a federal entity that said, hey, we help you out, you help us out. We will train our people, our realtors, in all the aspects of housing, right, including discriminatory practices, to eliminate or reduce at least discriminatory practices. And you help us out with either funding, which we call FHA, funding for housing, or looser regulations for rentals and purchase of housing, right? So that's what the partnership did. Now, realtors, we are not required to sign anything. We are not required to sign anything saying that we will comply or we will adhere to these regulations. But it does say here, on the right-hand side on top, right above implications for brokers, it does say here that despite the loose structure of the partnership, penalties for violating fair housing laws are severe, include the loss of real estate license. We said this right in the beginning of the chapter. You could lose your license, and it's also a criminal act. That has nothing to do with the partnership. Partnership was NAR said, hey, we're going to try to make sure our people comply with HUD, right? But the laws, again, are clear and widely known. Right here, clear and widely known. You guys remember what I said in federal? the complainant does not have to prove guilty knowledge, only the fact that discrimination occurred. So we go back to the same thing. I believe discrimination has occurred, so we sue you. That's it. Okay? So how does the broker go about complying with these laws? Well, by providing guidelines to their people. That's what the whole HUD and our partnership is about, is making sure that the brokers understand there has to be some type of booklet, training, or some type of guidelines for the realtors or the salespeople to abide by. So that will reduce the burden on the broker. Now, this right here is just one way for you guys to think about. It's on this 2 paragraphs down. It's just one way to think about, what if somebody asks you to live in a particular area based on race? Well, what you're supposed to say is, I cannot give you that type of the advice, but I will show you homes that meet your specifications, and then you will have to decide which one you want. Oh, I want to live in the Portuguese area. Well, there's no Portuguese area. There's an area where there's a lot of Portuguese people, but it's not a Portuguese area because Brazilians live there, Ecuadorians live there, Peruvians live there. Does that make sense? It's not the Portuguese area. And the moment you try to push somebody towards the ironbound, as we say here in the Newark area, right? The moment you try to push people there and saying that that's the Portuguese area, you're not discriminating against the Portuguese, you're discriminating against everybody else that also lives there. Does that make sense? So your job is to say, I cannot give you that kind of advice, but I will show you several homes that meet your specifications, okay? And then you'll just decide. Do you want to be near a Portuguese supermarket? I know one real good over there, but that's all I can tell you. Simple. You want to be near a school, you want to be near the highway, you want to be near transportation, I can help you with that. But stating that this is a Portuguese area, I cannot at all. You guys got it? Very, very important. That will be illegal. Now, on page 60, I want you to go to the bottom, and we're going to do the same thing that we did on page 54. If you have the physical book, highlight around the table. If you have a PDF of the book, then take some notes in your, or you can add bookmarks as well, I think, or take some notes in your notebook to see page 60 for advertising guidelines. And here's what it says. It's very simple. If the problem, or if you're advertising, you're trying to figure out if it's discriminatory or not, if it's based on race, color, or national origin, then the rule is that no discriminatory limitation or preference may be expressed. What can you say? You can say master bedroom or good neighborhood. Simple, broad. We're not saying anything other than that, right? What you cannot say is white neighborhood or no French. I don't know what they have against the French people, but they put it here. But white neighborhood or no French. If it's based on religion, okay, if it's based on religion, the rule is no religious preference or limitation. You can say chapel on premises if there is one, kosher meals available if there are, or even Merry Christmas because it's deemed patriotic, so you can say Merry Christmas. But what do you have to avoid? You have to avoid saying no Muslims. You have to avoid saying nice Christian family, or avoid saying near great Catholic school. And now my question to you guys is, what is so wrong with saying this? Near great Catholic school. Tell me in the chat right now, what is so wrong with saying near great Catholic school? Religion? Makes it sound better than other religions? Religion discrimination? You're targeting Catholic people? Absolutely. Indirectly speaks highly of the religion. The school is great. You're assuming that they're Catholic. All right. So it's not about, for those of you that said speaking highly of the religion, it's not really that. You guys remember I said a few minutes ago, I want to be in the Portuguese area, and if you take me to the Portuguese area, you're not discriminating against the Portuguese, you're discriminating against everybody else. So in this scenario, you guys will be discriminating against everybody that's not Catholic. So it's like you're targeting only Catholic people. Again, steering. It's the same thing as steering, where you might not be doing it on purpose. You're just stating the fact that there's a Catholic school, right? The great was not the key. The key was the fact that it's Catholic. The key is the fact that it's Christian. The key is the fact that it's Muslim, right? It's you limiting to certain groups. Again, maybe not on purpose, but it's this limitation right here. You got it? So guys, anything that's related to religion, please don't put it in your listing. It does not help the house. The religion has nothing to do with the house itself. You guys got it? So advertise the property. Easy. Okay? So these rules, these guidelines, make sure you guys go over them. I want you to, if it's the PDF, it's already highlighted, the bullet points, but go through every single one of them. Very, very important. There might be questions. There are similar to what's here, for instance, in religion, or questions that are here similar to where it says gender or sex, okay? So make sure you go through these. Very, very important. Mauricio, can you say near private school? Why not? You can say that there's private schools, as long as you're not putting specifically a religion or any other denomination there. As long as you're not saying anything specifically, you're good. Okay? Next page, and yes, Brian, you just saw a summary there. But next page, the last thing we got is testing. And in front of testing, I want you to write mystery or secret shoppers. Okay, so if you've heard of mystery or secret shoppers, you know what they are, right? These are people that go around and test the services of a particular business, and they get paid or compensated for it. In this scenario, testers are, for the real estate purposes, testers are volunteers. They're undercover volunteers, so they're not compensated. Their motivation is stopping discrimination. So these are volunteers. And the courts have held that such practice is permissible as the only way to test compliance with fair housing laws. Okay? So testers or testing is okay. They'll come into your business, they'll pretend to be buyers or pretend to be sellers, two different types of buyers, two different types of sellers, just to see how you treat them. You guys got it? Thumbs up? Great. Just addressing a quick question from Natalia. She asks, what if a person say they only speak Portuguese, so they only want to live where Portuguese people live? Well, it does become a little difficult there. You still should avoid it. You can direct them, for instance, to Portuguese newspapers, to Portuguese community online, and let them figure out. I mean, there's a lot of Facebook groups. You'll go like Portuguese living in New Jersey, Portuguese living in the US, as an example, or Brazilian or Spanish. I mean, there's so many ways for them to reach those groups, but I'll tell you, in reality, all these laws are here in place, but what do we do right away? Just Newark, Union, Hillside, bunch of Portuguese people there. Where would you prefer to go? So a lot of realtors fall into that trap. The thing is, you never know. Like, I don't know if one of you, and I say this in every class, I don't know if one of you is a tester, a mystery shopper, or something like that. I never know. So I have to treat everybody the same way as I do in every class. And if you've been to my previous classes, not a lot changes. I mess with every single person equally, so this way you cannot feel discriminated against. Simple, right? So the idea behind it is always cover your assets. All right, so this is not, CYA is not cover whatever you think it is. It's cover your assets, because assets is what you lose when you get sued. So always try to follow and work the proper way. Okay? If they do express some type of preference because of some limitations, like Natalia just said, try to find solutions for them without being as direct as, hey, here it is. No. Try to get them to go to these community events, for instance. You'll find them, okay? There's a Portuguese supermarket over there. Ask them. There's a Portuguese church over there. Ask them. I mean, don't, I'm not saying that this is, but try them. And even that you should avoid. They should be able to research on their own those things. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. All right. We're done with this chapter. It's 808. The next chapter is very short. 808, but give me, so 808, 815. Okay, I'm going to give you guys enough time to go in. So 7 minutes. Go to the bathroom, go get coffee, get your water, get your food, whatever you need to get. Stretch, jump up and down, do what you got to do. We'll be right back, okay?